Have you ever wondered how important data is in psychological research? Let's delve into that. You see, data serves as the bedrock of psychological studies. It's like the lifeblood that gives substance to the abstract concepts and theories we grapple with in psychology. Without data, we're merely guessing about the mysteries of the human mind and behavior. Imagine for a moment a world without data. Psychologists would have no way to validate or refute theories, no means to reliably predict human behavior, and no concrete evidence to support their arguments. All our understanding of the intricate workings of the human mind would be based solely on speculation and personal beliefs. A rather shaky foundation, don't you think? So, it's safe to say that data is more than just numbers and facts. It's the solid ground on which psychological research stands. But here's something you might not know. Not all data is the same. So, we see that data forms the backbone of psychological research. But did you know that not all data is the same? First up, let's dive into what we call primary data. Now imagine you're a psychologist and you're conducting a study on stress levels among university students. You're not going to rely on second-hand information, are you? No, you're going to want fresh, first-hand data that's directly relevant to your study. That's where primary data comes in. Primary data is original information that you collect for a specific research purpose. It's like going to the source and getting the information straight from the horse's mouth. So, in your study on stress levels, you might administer questionnaires to a group of students, conduct interviews, or even observe them in their natural setting. That's all primary data. It's new, it's original, and it's collected directly by you, the researcher. In essence, primary data is like a first-hand account, straight from the horse's mouth. But what about secondary data? Now, let's turn our attention to secondary data. You might be thinking, what's that? Well, secondary data is data that has been collected by someone else for a different purpose. It's not first-hand information like primary data. Rather, it's a bit like reading someone else's diary, with permission, of course. Imagine you're a psychologist studying the impact of stress on students. Instead of going out and conducting surveys or interviews yourself, you might decide to use secondary data. Where would you get this data from? Well, you could analyze previous studies on student stress levels, or even delve into online forums where students discuss their experiences with stress. This method saves you time and resources. But remember, secondary data was gathered for another purpose. It may not perfectly align with what you're studying. So secondary data is like a second-hand account, previously gathered for another purpose. But how do these two types of data compare? Having explored both primary and secondary data, how do they stack up against each other? Let's summarize. Primary data is like a custom-tailored suit. It fits perfectly, designed specifically for the researcher's study, capturing the exact data points needed. But, just like a bespoke suit, it can be time-consuming and costly to create. On the flip side, we have secondary data. Think of it as an off-the-rack suit, readily available, less costly, and gets the job done. But it may not perfectly fit the researcher's specific objectives. It might be too broad, or not quite cover the areas needed. In essence, primary data offers specificity and originality, while secondary data offers convenience and cost-effectiveness. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, and neither is inherently better than the other. Therefore, the choice between primary and secondary data depends on the research objectives, resources, and constraints. Remember, in the world of psychological research, data is king.